You owe me rent. I looked up from my coffee, confused. Sorry, what? HOA Karen stood at the edge of my porch, arms crossed, eyes narrowed, a smug smile crawling up her face. She jabbed a finger down toward the porch step. For this, my shadow. It's falling on your property. That's technically use of space. You owe me rent. I nearly choked. Let me rewind. 3 weeks earlier, I bought my dream home, a quiet little corner house at the end of the cul-de-sac. Fresh coat of paint, a creaky porch swing, and the perfect sunset view. After years of grinding, I finally had peace. But that lasted exactly 36 hours. The HOA president, Karen, showed up the morning after I moved in, clipboard in hand and nose practically in the air. She didn't say hello, just, "We don't hang wind chimes here." And just like that, the battle had begun. She had a rule for everything: grass height, curtain color, even the direction my recycling bin faced. But today's stunt, charging rent for a shadow? It wasn't even her property. Karen's house was 2 doors down, but at exactly 3:17 p.m. every day, as the sun dipped behind her monstrosity of a McMansion, the shadow of her top-floor deck crept across the far edge of my porch for exactly 12 minutes. And now she was acting like it was prime real estate. "You've got until Friday," she snapped. "Otherwise, I'm reporting you for unauthorized occupation of HOA airspace." I stared at her, genuinely trying to process if she was joking or if this woman had finally tipped over the edge of insanity. She wasn't joking. I watched her walk off like she'd just dropped off an eviction notice from the White House. The rest of the afternoon, I got emails from the HOA about encroachment, ambient usage compensation, and, get this, a shadow leasing policy, a real document with a fake letterhead. I printed them all out and took a walk to her house. Her husband answered the door and, without saying a word, handed me a cup of chamomile tea and whispered, "Good luck." By sunset, Karen was on her front lawn with a measuring tape, tracing where her shadow fell while threatening to charge me back rent from the day I moved in. I decided right then I wasn't just going to ignore her. I was going to break this HOA from the inside out. And it started with a chair, a stopwatch, and a very expensive umbrella. I bought the biggest, gaudiest patio umbrella I could find, flamingo-pink, lined with LED lights, wide enough to shade a pickup truck. Karen hated color, especially pink. That's why I planted it smack on the corner of my porch where her shadow dared to trespass every afternoon. The moment I popped it open, her cursed shadow was blocked. Her airspace usage stopped cold. 3 minutes later, she was storming across my lawn in her infamous leopard print flats. "You can't obstruct HOA-certified sunlight paths," she shrieked. "I thought this was about shadows," I said, sipping my iced tea. "This umbrella doesn't touch your property. And as far as I know, sunlight is still hitting your house." She tried to push the umbrella over. I didn't move. Neither did the umbrella, because I'd bolted it into the porch. That was day 1. Day 2, she filed a formal complaint: umbrella violates HOA aesthetic standards. I replied with a photo of her house's purple flamingo-shaped mailbox and asked, what standards, exactly? Day 3, she brought out the ladder. I kid you not, this woman climbed 10 feet into the air with a mirror and tried reflecting sunlight under my umbrella to simulate shadow presence. I filmed the whole thing and uploaded it with the caption, "Karen invents solar warfare." Within hours, it went viral. The comments were brutal. Memes popped up with captions like "Rent Dweller" and "Shadow Lord Supreme." But the attention only made her worse. She started measuring neighborhood driveways, threatening citations for uneven gravel patterns. One poor guy got fined for a decorative rock she claimed disrupted sidewalk symmetry. Meanwhile, I kept making changes. I installed a sunshade awning. She said it was creating an unfair light economy. I put up a scarecrow just for fun. She said it cast unauthorized silhouettes. Then I dropped the bomb. I pulled out the HOA's own bylaws and discovered something delicious. Karen's own rooftop deck, the one casting the shadow, exceeded the height limit set for second-story structures by 4 inches. I took photos, laser measurements, even brought in a drone. She was violating the same rule she used to weaponize a shadow. I printed the evidence, walked it right over to her house, and rang the bell. Karen opened the door, saw the folder, and didn't even reach for it. She just whispered, "You think you've won?" I smiled. "No, I'm just getting started." The HOA board met every third Thursday in a stuffy little room at the clubhouse. Normally, 5 people showed up, 3 were half asleep, the other 2 nodded at whatever Karen said like they were hypnotized. But not this time. This time, the clubhouse was packed. Neighbors had seen the viral umbrella video. They'd read Karen's shadow rent letters. And when I posted that her precious rooftop deck violated the HOA's own bylaws, well, let's just say people stopped mowing their lawns on purpose. One guy painted "Free the Sun" on his garage. Another neighbor brought a lawn chair just to sit and tan in Karen's shadow every afternoon. She screamed. He said, "I thought shadows were rentable space now." By the time the board meeting started, Karen knew something was off. Her smile was tight, her pearls were clutched, and her usual gavel slam didn't carry the same authority. I took a seat in the front row. Board Chair Doug, who usually nodded like a bobblehead, actually cleared his throat and said, "We'd like to begin with the community concern regarding personal conduct and potential misuse of authority." Karen's eye twitched. "You mean my conduct?" she asked, laughing nervously. Doug didn't blink. "Yes. Several residents have brought evidence of unreasonable fines, fabricated policies, and misuse of the HOA name." Another board member, Angela, chimed in, "And we received drone footage showing your deck's height is out of compliance." Karen tried to speak, but her words tripped over each other. She launched into a meltdown. "This is a witch hunt. He's manipulating you. His umbrella is a violation of nature." I raised my hand. "May I speak?" Doug nodded. "Go ahead." I stood up slowly, calmly. "Karen told me I owed rent for her shadow. That's not enforcement. That's ego. That's a weaponized HOA. We're not supposed to live in fear of our own neighborhood." The room clapped. Karen's face turned crimson. Angela added, "This board was created to serve the community, not to play dictator with light and shade." It was like someone flipped a switch. The board voted to open an internal investigation into Karen's conduct. Effective immediately, she was suspended from her HOA duties pending review. She stood up, knocked over her chair, and hissed, "You'll regret this, every single one of you." Then she stormed out. Her shadow followed. I looked around at the neighbors, smiling, relieved, free for the first time in years. But something in me didn't sit easy. Karen wasn't the type to back down. She was the type to double down. And I had a gut feeling, the war wasn't over. 3 weeks passed. Karen went quiet, no clipboard, no threats, no measuring tape. Her house sat like a dead castle, curtains drawn, porch empty, flower beds withering. People assumed she'd resigned. But I knew better. Then, on a Saturday morning, a thick envelope arrived in my mailbox, no stamp, just slid in by hand. Inside, a formal lawsuit. Karen was suing me, claiming intentional sabotage of community governance. Damages? $18,000. Reason? Emotional distress due to sunlight interference and public ridicule. I laughed out loud. Then I noticed something else inside the envelope, a folded map. My house, my porch, arrows, measurements, lines drawn in red. Karen hadn't quit. She'd been planning a final blow. Her lawsuit was nonsense, but her map, that worried me. Because in the corner of the page, she'd written one phrase, "New bylaws pass next vote." Shadows equals shared utility. If she convinced the board to pass it, she could make the rent real, not just for me, for everyone. I couldn't let it happen. I showed the board the lawsuit and the map. Doug's jaw clenched. Angela swore under her breath. "We'll shut it down," they said. But that wasn't enough. So, I got to work. I hosted a sunlight celebration block party, umbrellas everywhere, neon lawn chairs, reflective blankets, a grill set right where her shadow touched the curb. Everyone came. Even Doug brought his dog and sunglasses. Karen. She stood at her window, seething. That night, the board held a final emergency vote. I showed them her red map, her handwritten threat, and the list of neighbors she'd planned to fine for shade absorption. Unanimous vote, Karen was permanently removed from the HOA, banned from holding any future position. And here's the twist, that rooftop deck of hers, still 4 inches too tall. The board gave her 30 days to bring it into compliance. She refused, so the county stepped in. On a sunny Monday morning, a truck pulled up with a crew. I watched from my porch as they removed the upper railings of her deck and trimmed the overhang. By the time they finished, the shadow was gone forever. Karen came outside, shaking, and stared at the sun hitting my porch. She didn't say a word. She just turned and walked inside, defeated, swallowed by her own front door. No more rent letters, no more clipboard, just clear light, soft wind, and peace. Real peace. And every day since, as the sun sets and the porch glows gold, I sit in my flamingo-pink chair, sip my tea, and smile. Because some shadows fade on their own. If someone ever tries charging you rent for their shadow, you know, this isn't just a story, it's war. So, hit that subscribe button to see what Dada G does next. Like the video if you're on Team Porch Freedom, and drop a comment saying, "Shadows don't pay rent, because this neighborhood? It just woke up."